reconcile your bank account every week. I don't care whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a multi-million dollar company. You need to reconcile your bank account every week. You live and die by your cash balance. Cash is king, as they say, right?
Attention marketers and entrepreneurs, this is Valuetizing, the place where we talk about scaling brands worth promoting. If you're a mission-driven entrepreneur obsessed with creating, scaling, and exiting multi-million-dollar brands, this is for you. My name is Santiago Phoenix and I am a business growth consultant, online marketer, and investor. I have helped more than 100 7- and 8-figure founders increase profits, claim their time back, and transform the world. Now it's your turn. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to Valuetizing. My guest today is Greg Powell, a fractional CFO with almost 20 years of experience helping businesses grow strategically, understand their financial statements, and keep more of the money that they make. Greg has a unique story helping businesses in dozens of industries increase profitability while living all kinds of adventures. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I first wanted to get to know you and understand, how did you first become a fractional CFO?
Well, it's a bit of an interesting story. I spent many years working in public companies in Toronto and found that I was working, 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week, just, to meet all deadlines and get things done, and then repeat the process the following quarter. And although the experience was really great, it didn't allow me to have great work-life balance, and I found that I was just burning out. And then through an interesting chain of events, I ended up finishing up with a public company, and for the first time in my life, found myself unemployed and wondering what I was going to do. And I decided to go the fractional route because I had worked with small companies before that needed my financial expertise, but just didn't need me full time. And thought, this is a great business model. It allows me to take the expertise that I've developed over the years and offer it to people who need it, but just not on a full-time basis. So when I first went out fractional, it was a little slow getting started, but you're able to really make an impact and a difference and really help companies that need it.
When would you say a business is ready to hire a fractional CFO? Or more than ready, like when do they need one? How can they know they need one?
Well, that's a bit of it really does depend on the company, but I would say there's no harm in starting with a fractional CFO in the very early stages. I have one very early stage company that I work with maybe 3 or 4 hours a month. And then sometimes we can go for a period of time without talking. So as a fractional CFO, you can use me as much or as little as you want. So if you're starting your business and you're looking to grow, look at your budget that you might have for a fractional CFO and start the conversation. And if, in my case, it's flexible. If you just want to talk an hour a month, that's fine. So as with other planning of your business, plan early to have that financial expertise in place. You don't need somebody maybe a full day or a full week, a month. Maybe you just need them once a quarter. So it's probably never too early to really start. But usually my clients come to me when they're growing in a growth stage. And oftentimes they come to me when there's a problem. They're not getting their financial statements on time, or they're going to the bank to get a little bit of money and they can't. So it would have been better for them to engage me earlier, before the problem started.
Right. What other problems are they typically facing when they come to you?
A lot of times they don't understand where their money is going. So they're making great revenue. They're growing their business to a point where they're feeling successful, but they don't have a lot of cash in the bank. So then it's, well, where'd all the money go? If we're doing so well on revenue, where's all the money? So the cash management side is something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily get their head around. They're very good at the task that they've undertaken, or the project that they've undertaken, but understanding the finance part is a little challenging. And then sometimes it's timing of payments. they know they need to purchase a new piece of equipment. Do they have the money for it, or will they have the money for it? So cash flow is another thing that's very critical.
And how is that impacting them? So cash flow problems, not enough profitability. How is that impacting them?
Well, it's stressful, right? I've had a few clients come to me saying, we weren't sure whether we were going to make payroll, or they fall behind in their taxes, which is, the government's calling you saying, where's my tax money? Let's develop a payment plan. And it really inhibits their growth if you don't have proper cash flow.
Interesting. So what would you say to a person? Because I work in marketing, and
Mhm.
of course I'm all about like, let's get more sales, more sales. But how would you explain to someone that that is not enough?
Well, I like to do a projection for the next 12, 18 months of, if this where you think you're going to go, what does that mean for cash flow and expenses? What other things are you going to need? So look more forward. A lot of times in accounting, we look backwards, and you need a CFO who's going to look forward so you can say, well, sure, the marketing guys, they want to spend a lot of money so they can grow the sales, but do we have the cash right now? And what else is coming up that we need to pay that may interfere with this project? So it's really looking at the holistic view.
Yeah. So looking ahead, and I guess that's very hard for most entrepreneurs.
Well, I find the entrepreneur, it's a little bit of a conflict. The entrepreneur is always, looking ahead saying, okay, in the next 5 years, I want to grow my business to this level. But they're also focused on today, do I have enough money for payroll? And a lot of times, you have accountants who are looking backwards, recording history of transactions that have happened, and don't always necessarily have the time to look forward because you're dealing with the day to day. So you really need that balance of making sure the history is recorded properly, dealing with the current issues, but having a clear vision and path for going forward. So it's a tough thing to juggle. It's
Right. But
difficult being an entrepreneur for sure.
yeah, but you started as a CPA, right?
Yes, I started my career. Well, actually, in Canada, we had a few different designations. I started off as a CGA. They amalgamated into the CPA, and then just kept growing my career and credentials from there.
And when did you realize, like, I don't just want to be crunching numbers, I want to work on the big picture, forecasting, all those high level things?
Right from early on, I always tease people and say, nobody ever grows up dreaming they want to be an accountant. I fell into it because I was good at it. It was a course I'd taken actually in high school. It was my first accounting course. I excelled at it. I saw a career path there, and for me, the career path was clear. I knew I needed to start at the bottom and learn everything, but I wanted to be CFO, and that was something that was always in my sights to do.
And is that when you went traveling to Argentina? How was that trip? Share it with the audience because many people will not know.
Yes, well, that would have been 12, 13 years ago. I was working for a mining company that was being sold, and I was going to find myself without an opportunity, without employment. And at this point, my life had there was a few other things that happened in my personal life, and I had this opportunity to take some time off. And being an avid motorcyclist, I thought, well, how can I take that time off and enjoy my motorcycle? So I left the company. I sold my house and most of my other possessions, packed up my motorcycle, and decided to ride across the Americas. So I started off riding as far east as I could go in North America, which is a place called Cape Spear, Newfoundland. Then I went as far west as I could go, which is a place called Homer, Alaska. And then up as far north as I could go to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. And then turned my bike south and went all through the United States, from Alaska all through Western Canada, zigzagged through the Western US, through Central America, and then South America, all the way to the tip of Argentina. The most southern point that you can go is Ushuaia, Argentina. So I was on my motorcycle for 11 months and did a total of 65,000 kilometers through
Wow,
14 different countries.
that's crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say was the biggest thing that you learned there?
Uh, I finally learned to live in the moment. As an accountant, as we talked about earlier, you're always looking backwards at the transaction or trying to project forward. Rarely are you living in that current moment. So when I was riding my motorcycle, I was in the current moment, worried about what was happening at that moment. I wasn't thinking about what happened yesterday. The future was in front of me and it was coming, and I just enjoyed every moment of that trip. It was actually life changing.
I can picture like a film. You go into these places.
Yes, yeah, it was very. Some parts were surreal. I had not been to most of those places before. I hadn't visited the Western United States before, and some of the trips I'd taken had been to resorts or not off the beaten path, mixing in with locals and seeing the true parts of the country, as opposed to just what the tourist areas are. I was right off road and in some of the back villages and had an amazing experience. And you realize when you travel like that most of the world is made up of good people, right? Yeah, I just met amazing people along the way, and some who I'm still friends with today after
Wow.
13 years.
Were you living off from savings?
Yes, yes. I was fortunate that, I was employed and was paid well. And I had planned this trip for about a year and a half. So I was able to save up money. I didn't work when I was away, which was nice. I was able to truly enjoy it. And uh, good thing for me is there's always a demand for accountants. So when I came back from my trip, I was able to find employment right away. So just managed my money very tightly on the road. I had a budget. I said I'm going to spend approximately $100 a day, and some days were more and some days were less. But that was, one of the advantages of being in accounting is you can budget, right? So
So that shows the power of thinking ahead.
yes, yes, I knew that I had enough money for a year. I knew that there would be repairs along the way, which I was fortunate. I didn't have too many motorcycle repairs. And I also, if you want to save some money, you can just slow down. If I was to find a place that was beautiful, like, park on the beach and get an inexpensive place to stay and stay there for a couple of days, well, that totally adjusted my budget.
Nice. So I'm thinking like uh, it kind of shows that in order to be able to live in the moment, like if you think ahead, that will serve you live in the moment. It's not something
Absolutely.
separate.
Absolutely. Because you're not worried about the future, right? You know that you have a plan, that your plan is working. You check in with your plan regularly, and that allows you to enjoy today because you know the future is going to come, but you know that you're prepared for it. And you're also prepared a little bit for the unexpected. Budgeting, you don't know what repairs are going to be necessarily, right? There's scheduled maintenance, but if something breaks on your car, in your factory, or in my case, on my motorcycle, is it a $10 fix or is it a $100 or $1,000 fix? I didn't know, but I knew that those days would come, and I knew how to adjust my spending accordingly.
Right. So that's kind of like what you do for companies.
Well, exactly, right? We never know what, there's always going to be an unexpected cost. But then looking and comparing your budget to actuals regularly, what can you adjust? What has to go up? What has to go down? Just gives you comfort that the next, 3, 6, 9 months or year is going to work out the way you want. And being able to, adjust or pivot in that moment, if you have a big expenditure or a dip in sales that you weren't expecting, what can you do about it? And not having to have a knee-jerk reaction, but much more of a smooth transition into the next phase of your
Right.
business, reduces a lot of stress for people.
Like it impacts your entire emotional state.
Yes, yes, because people never really make great decisions when they're highly emotional, right? It's more logic-based. It's more sticking with the plan, knowing things are going to work out, and then having the right people to talk to. having a good team together, having a good marketing person like yourself and a good finance person, that really gives people a lot of comfort when they're running their business.
If you're a business owner looking to scale your company in a way that doesn't add more stress and overwhelm to your plate, I have something that will be great for you. Look, you may have tried a lot of courses, group coaching programs, and masterminds. The problem is that none of these options give you a customized plan that makes sense for your unique situation, your strengths, your team capabilities, and that really pinpoints what is the best opportunity for you right now in order to get to that next level of revenue, freedom, and impact. So, if you want to get started with a plan like that, go to myplantoscale.com and grab my one-page scaling plan. It will bring clarity about what do you really want to get out of your business and how you can get it in the fastest, simplest, and most efficient way possible. Go to myplantoscale.com to grab it today. Now, back to the show. When business owners are trying to look ahead, like what are those key financial metrics that they should look at on a daily or weekly basis in order to keep pulse of the business?
I find that most entrepreneurs will look at revenue. They'll look strictly at revenue growth and say, "Well, I'm growing my sales exponentially." That's only one matrix. The real information comes in the balance sheet. How are your liabilities? Have you been paying your debts down? How much cash do you have? How much do you need? Should your cash be invested differently than what it currently is, or are you going to need some cash in the future? And also watching expense creep. It's really easy when times are good to spend money and to spend more than what you have or more than what you need. So I really encourage people not only to focus on revenue growth, but to watch the expenses and then watch the liabilities and that they're getting paid down and not creeping up, and that you're not falling behind on anything. And are you maintaining your assets? So you really need to look at all areas of your finances. But for me, it's well beyond sales.
Right. So if someone is, I don't know, maybe as solopreneur, they cannot hire a finance person yet, and they want to be like their own CFO, what would be like one or two habits that they could implement that would serve them?
Reconcile your bank account every week. I don't care whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a multi-million-dollar company. You need to reconcile your bank account every week. Some companies, large companies, will do it daily, but for a solopreneur or a small, medium-sized company, reconcile your bank every single week. If something's going wrong, you're going to find that's one of the first places you're going to find it. An unexpected bill came through that maybe didn't get recorded, or you're expecting some revenue to be deposited and it hasn't. You're able to react quickly when you're looking at your bank account every week. And the smaller the company, the more critical that is, because you live and die by your cash balance. Cash is king, as they say, right?
Looking at your existing cash every day.
Every day. Just reconcile the bank. What's my general ledger say? What does my bank statement say? Make sure they agree. And then if they don't, if whatever issues are coming up, deal with them.
Right.
And I think the other thing too is all of your compliance, right? Make sure you're filing your sales tax returns and income tax returns on time. That's another area that will cause you a lot of headaches.
All right. Yeah. So you're not scrambling for everything when the tax bill comes.
Exactly, right? And if you're doing your forecasting right, you will know what your tax bill approximately is going to be, right? I would find it very hard to calculate that perfectly because there's always a moving parts and different variables, but don't be surprised by your tax bill when it's due. Have some sort of estimate, or you've made an installment payment, something that makes your life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, that's super, super useful. And I wanted to get your take on if you see any like trends that you think will impact business finance significantly in the next few years? I know there's a lot about AI, but what do you see being on the inside?
Sure. Well, here in Canada, you know, we're keeping our eye on the interest rates. For the first time in a long time, decades, money is expensive to borrow now. We've been fortunate to be able to borrow at low rates. It's higher now. That is deterring a lot of people from taking on additional risk and debts. They don't know which way it's going. Um, and it really depends on who you ask, but there's certain people who say, the economy is doing really well, there's nothing to worry about. And then other people say, no, everything's tight. So it's really trying to understand other trends as to what your business is in and about where you see that market going, whether people are tightening their belt. How are your sales doing? Are they dropping or not? And then is there anything that you can do about that? I've noticed a lot of expense creep with
Yeah.
my clients that things that were $100 2 years ago are now 400. They've just gone up. So that's a trend that's been continuing, and I'm I feel it's leveling out, but I'm not sure that we've seen that happen just yet.
Yes, for sure. That's very top of mind for a lot of business owners right now.
Yes, absolutely, right? Because I was just looking at a client statement earlier today, and in the last 3 years, their expenses have doubled. And it's really been in a couple of areas, insurance being one of them, and they had some older equipment, so there was repairs, but there are just things that are creeping up, and it's nothing has gone down. Everything has gone up, and in some cases, double.
Right. So you kind of need to keep a tight pulse on your expenses, and that's where someone like a fractional CFO would help a ton.
Exactly, right? Because the entrepreneur doesn't necessarily have time to go and negotiate or find a new provider. But as a fractional CFO, having dealing with multiple companies, I may already have a contact in that field that we can go out and get a quote on, right? If you want to shop your insurance, or if you want to look for a new provider for waste management, whatever it happens to be, the entrepreneur is focused on what they do best. And it's probably not, negotiating a new insurance contract, unless, of course, that's your business.
Right. Well, that's so cool. And the last question I had was about the story recovering bills from the Russian government. Like, can you share a bit
Yeah,
about that? It sounds crazy.
sure, sure. I work on a mining project in the far east of Russia, and we had some VAT tax, value added tax, that was owed to the company. And there was a lot of red tape around this tax. And what it came down to was we needed some additional documentation on the taxes owed to us in order to claim it. So I actually met with the local government, explained our situation, and they said, well, we're more than willing to support your claim of this tax, but can you promise that you will spend the rubles back in Russia? And that was actually our plan. We had a mine that we were developing. We needed local salaries to pay, local suppliers to pay. So all of that VAT tax, which was several years old, was just going to be reinvested in the local economy. And I told him our plan. We shook hands. We completed all the paperwork and got all the documentation in order, and everything was above board. Submitted our tax returns, and we were refunded the money. It took several months, but it was the equivalent of about $2 million, which, as it was paid to us, we reinvested in the local Russian economy. So it worked out really well. It was
Yeah.
it was tough. We weren't sure whether it was going to work or not because being a foreign government and a little bit of an unknown government, we weren't sure how it was going to go, but it went smooth.
And a little bit of an intimidating government, I would say.
It can be, but when you're operating 100% above board, it's not intimidating. You're doing the right things. You just need to make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, and as they should always be. So, but it can be a little intimidating dealing with foreign governments for sure.
Right. So Greg, where can people get learn more about you if they want to speak with you, if they're interested in working with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and you can also reach through me through my website, which is fifthridgeventures.com, and you can just fill out the form there, and I'll get back to people right away.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg. If you enjoyed the show, hit the share button and send it over to one fellow marketer or entrepreneur. We work hard to make sure they'll thank you for it. Also, to get featured on the show, go to valuetizing.com and apply to become our next guest. Until next time, keep valuetizing.